Hey everybody, welcome back to the Combat Chain. I am your host, Patrick. I can win if I roll higher than a 1. Nope, okay, brick. Break gambler's gloves, still 1. I guess I died to blood debt. Shaw. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Adam. Kano is back on the menu, baby. Philip Chuck. Adam, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Pat. We're just a couple days back from San Jose. Of course, we had Worlds this weekend, so that was a blast.
What? Really?
Yeah, I don't know if you heard, Pat. Yeah, World Championship this weekend.
Tiny little tournament, huh?
Yeah, just a little blip on the map, but of course, didn't have a stellar result this weekend, but we weren't going in with any big expectations just because of like we've talked about in the past, kind of where life's been lately. But still, it was a great experience. But I'm also glad to be home. I get a little homesick sometimes, miss my animals, miss my lady. It's good to be back.
It's good to have you back. And, congratulations on a successful 2022. You made it to Worlds. You did it. You did the thing. And we were all rooting for you. And we found you in the giant hangar in Where's Adam? So
the big tent.
Yeah, I keep hearing we'll talk about this. I'm interested to know about how it went down. But speaking of coming off this weekend and looking ahead, we have a very special guest with us this week. Ethan Van Sant, widely known for his love for the Shadow Brute, Levia, a Shadowborn abomination, with Ethan being essentially her signature player. You can find Ethan streaming live regularly during the week, testing for the next big event. Ethan also has a few projects that we'll break down during this podcast. He will be streaming with Star City Games for the Battle Hardens moving forward. I think he's the exclusive streamer at this point, correct, Ethan? And next weekend, he will be airing the first of its kind live streamed Clash format 8-person tournament. Clash is a new format devised by Ethan as a middle ground between Blitz and Commoner. The tournament this weekend will be live streamed on his YouTube channel and will be cast by himself and LSS content manager Chris Bewley. Ethan, welcome to the Combat Chain.
Thank you, Pat. I think my official introduction should also be Ethan. I can win if I roll higher than a 1. Nope, okay. Brick gamblers, roll 1, died of blood debt. Van Sant, that is also me. So I'm in good company, it seems.
First and foremost, I'd like to check on you and your luggage. How is everything how are you doing, and you're traveling, and is everything with you that you brought to San Jose?
San Jose went well, and actually, as far as big travel hurdles go, I'm surprised because it's been like 3 weeks on the road, wrapping up here, traveling to Columbus, running back home just for a quick pack to then go to Denver, staying on the road through San Jose, flying back for another quick 2 days home, and then going back out to Philly. So out of a whole month, I've spent at this point, like now, this is my second day officially home in like 2 months. And somehow the luggage was fine through all of that, unlike coming back from France. So it's good. It's good. Things are already going better than before. And I have all my decks that I packed with me still in tow, also better than before. All my camera gear still functional, still in hand. So it's all good.
Awesome. Now you moved up to New York recently, correct?
Yeah, I live in middle of nowhere, upstate New York. So Geneva, it's tip of the Seneca Finger Lakes, and it's about it. We got an LGS like an hour away, got another LGS like an hour 15 away, and then Talishar on my browser. So that's pretty much what I do.
Excellent. You hang out on the tavern these days, correct? With Lee Pouchard and the Tavern Brawlers.
Yeah, they're. I've known Lee for a while now, just from events, and when I was moving up to upstate New York, he's based. It was kind of like an hour plus away, so he reached out about actually kind of getting together as part of the team in more of a like community capacity, and it's been fun. I mean, the team so far is still growing, so the player base is always fresh and exciting. We've got Brian on there who just got forward at Nationals. He's been amazing to work with. But I do see it more of a community partnership. Like Lee just is so good for the community, super happy guy. runs a lot of great events, and I also would like to think I help the community. So it's a match made in heaven. We're doing well.
Certainly is. Yeah, Lee is again, not to schmooze all over the place. Lovely. Been friends with him for a while. Love catching his hat at big events and figuring out where he is and having a good conversation with him. It's always a good time. Now, Worlds. I keep hearing. I watched it at home streaming, and it seemed fine, but. Guys, I'm hearing horror stories. You were in a municipal hangar. There was no food. There was no bathrooms. There was roaches on the floor. There were fires and dumpsters around every corner. How much of that is true? How much is false? How was the actual World's experience?
Well, I would still say 9.5 out of 10. The only complaint about the venue were the bathrooms. I actually thought overall, like that, sure, it looked like a tent, but it was actually insulated and it got quite warm. So I was, as far as convention centers go, like normally I'm always freezing. So for me, it was a win. Like, yeah, it looked like a circus tent, but it was quite cozy. The bathrooms were outside, which was a bit of a hike, and they weren't the nicest anyway. But, you didn't have to get venue food. You could just cross the street and all of a sudden you had a plethora of options. So I don't think all the complaints are warranted, but definitely on the surface, it looked a bit rough, but hey, just remember, you didn't have to wear like 3 parkas. You were fine.
Yeah, I 100% agree, actually. Though I did encounter a roach, and that was a little unsettling. I don't do well with bugs.
Oh, man. I was kidding about the roach. That is unsettling.
Wow. They're 100. I don't know if it was a roach, but I was walking, and there was this like massive bug on the ground, like probably about this. Oh, right. You guys are both American. You don't know what like a loony or a toonie is. Probably about the size of.
Nope, your fake money is no good here.
Yeah, our money sucks. I've got nothing good to say about it. Like our currency's in the shitter.
Come on. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's rough. But were there actual fires, dumpster fire? I didn't hear of any fires. Are you?
No, that was also just a metaphor. Okay. I heard from some people, like the professor was on the Flukenbox Wonder podcast, and he didn't have great things to say about the venue. And I've just on social media in particular, it seemed like there was like the event itself was great. The venue was a fixer-upper is what I kept. It was the consistent theme throughout, and things like the player reception. I heard mixed reviews on the player reception.
The venue for the player reception was nice, but it was just like some of the execution was a little. I think they under anticipated the turnout for the banquet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the complaints are overblown on that front. Like, if you expect to really get food being like the last person in line to get in and the last person in line in the food lines, I'm sorry, but they're not just going to have pizzas for you. Like I went in relatively early and I didn't even expect to get food. Like the drinks were always going to flow. That's why I was there. I just got food with friends at another spot. So for the people who did pay, like, yeah, it definitely came off a bit rough. But for anyone with just a free invite, I would hold your tongue. Like it was a great time. No complaints.
So really we're saying that survival of the fittest in action was kind of taking place, that those who failed to adapt floundered.
Yeah, that's right. Look, I deal with blood debt on a daily basis. These people, come on. So I found it great. Wish you could have been there, Pat. It was fun.
Yeah, I tried really, really hard for most of 2022 and could not put it together, unfortunately. So my season ended at US Nats. So ending of a season. There's nothing left for 2022 in terms of competitive play. Now for
2 battle hardens.
Two battle hardens, which you are streaming. So yes, that is very important to note. But in terms of Pro Tour level play, that's it until I don't think they've announced the location for Pro Tour 3, but they've had ProQuest Season 3 announced for end of January. So what does 2022 is coming to a close now here? Have you given thoughts on like how you have are you treating this kind of like an end of a season? Is this just a continuation of just gameplay for you going into the next year? Like, is there a stopping point? Is there a rest point here coming into the winter, or do you treat it differently and perhaps just a continuous flow.
Now this is go time. This is buckle down. Take the reprieve that LSS is giving us from big events to actually go a little bit full blown on content creation, and also dive into a new set and just get ahead of the curve on all the tournaments that do start rolling out at the turn of the year here. So no, I mean, there's 2 Battle Hardened still to wrap up, and one of them is at SEGCon in Philadelphia that I'll be doing exclusive coverage of. The other one is in Hong Kong. So you get a bit of a. I'm not streaming that one. Sorry. You get a bit of a spread across the globe there.
Man of mystery here.
to see what people are doing with the Dynasty set, and then I think we'll dive into a bit later. But the Clash tournament was always planned as a way to fill that gap of tournament play that LSS normally gives us in November and December, just their little off season. So it doesn't mean we have to take a break from Fab. We can just look at Fab in a different light, which is what the Clash tourney is hopefully going to do when we jump into that later. But no, for me, look, it's with streaming and all that regularly, that's not going to change. It's still on the docket, I think. Maybe a few less streams because family travel comes up and things like that. But I get to save some money for once, not actually looking to book tickets every month. So it'll be nice.
You don't just transition those unspent funds right into sealed Fab boxes. You're not a degenerate like that.
I buy Levia cards, and luckily this set there's 0, so I don't have to spend money.
That is true, and that is something I'd like to talk about. Adam, what about you? I know we've had some conversation about what the future looks like, but is this the close of a chapter, so to speak, coming towards the end of 2022? What does Adam Philipchuk's outlook for 2023 look like?
I'm still not totally certain. I'm torn right now. I think to some extent I do feel a little bit of the burnout of just grinding competitively, but at the same time, I do truly love it. And I think I'm glad we're in a little bit of an off season. I do like to Ethan's point. I do want to find some ways to seize this opportunity and try and get ahead of the curve somehow, but I'm not totally certain what that means yet or what that looks like. I know in some of our, well, I guess we do have, I'm trying to think I don't want to spill any beans here. We do have some, you and I will be
have some of our own. Yeah, we have some of our own content coming up here.
That yeah, we'll leave it at that for now. We're going to be involved in some stuff with the Fab Foundry, and that's quite exciting. So that's going to take up some of my time. But beyond that, a reality for me is some of my testing situation fell apart, and because of that, now it's kind of causing me to reevaluate where do I want to who do I want to surround myself with from a testing perspective. And coming out of this weekend, there was I was seeing a lot of not just the camaraderie and the support that some of the teams have, but also you can just see the work they all put in together really cause some teams to excel this weekend. And ideally I'd like to try to, in this off season, find myself some sort of, I don't know, I'm not totally certain what that looks like. I'm not totally certain what direction to be looking in yet, but I guess if I could paraphrase it, it'd be cool to find myself on some sort of a semi-formal or formalized team to work with.
Yeah, definitely. Right. That's been right. One of the central points coming out of this season that started with Pro Tour 1 all the way down to the World Championships has been, I think, the emerging of the kind of the team aspect of the individual game that is flesh and blood. Ethan, have you you've been kind of neck deep into this whole time. How much have you seen the formation of these well-known teams, and even some of the lesser-known teams, bringing up these high-level competitors? And like, how much of an advantage is it at this point in your eyes to get that cohesive unit together to help you succeed at the highest levels?
Well, I mean, I'm not really part of any formal team. I'm very much a lone wolf because no one really cares about testing against Levia, which is valid. But I've definitely got my finger on the pulse of a couple different teams that have been involved a little bit behind the scenes on just observing what's going on. Like this weekend, I was at the test house with Dan Rakowski, who did make top 4 at Worlds, and just to see the 2-phase approach of three-phase approach of all right, this is the night before. This is the night before Worlds. Like, what last-minute prep can we jam in? Compared to the second day of, all right, you're live for day 2. It's time to buckle up. Versus day 3. This is top 8. Full information on the table. Deck list in hand. How do you win? And each day was treated very differently because at first, there's all the buzz around everyone on the team. Yuanji, Brody, Dan, Nathan. Like, everyone's wondering how well will they do, and there's all this tension in the room of everyone wants to test kind of selfishly, like they want to test as a team, but it's for their personal performance, compared to the second day where the people who are live get a lot of the focus, and it's about refinement, and it's about just making sure that day 1 it doesn't go to waste. Like, not everyone could make it. Here you've got your team you've got like the entire team on your back. Like, you can do it. It's a lot of support, and a lot of specific testing of, all right, let's listen to the top player here who needs help. Like, now they're going to lead the testing because not everyone needs to be involved in that point. Compared to day 3 of, now we've got someone live for top 8 who can win this whole thing. What is that like? And it becomes this completely communal effort of, we are going to put all our minds to cover up everything that we don't want Dan to stress about. We are going to look at every matchup from his side, from their side, talk through everything. But at the core of it is just this idea of, it's for Dan, it's for his own good. If he says he's tired, that's it. Like, there's no pressure. And it's really cool. Like, it was a complete evolution of team, like kind of decentralized team effort into like starting to form around the one player and supporting them and bringing them up. And that is not something you ever get if you are alone. Because it's not so much about the testing team around you, it's about the support that they give you as you continue to do well. And I really love seeing that in particular, because I do definitely discount the idea of like closing the doors and like testing with your own people and not really letting in others, and you kind of get locked in your own assessment of the meta that may not be right. But you do definitely miss the community aspect, everyone channeling their energy towards the one person. It's really great. It was fun to see.
Excellent. And let's. I do want to take a quick look into the actual worlds and talk a little bit about how the top 8 and the eventual champion kind of transpired here. Looking at the top 8, I'd like to think very internationally represented top 8. We have Denmark and Viet Pham, Taiwan represented by Pei Tung Liao. Apologies if I'm getting that wrong. Great Britain had Rob Catton. Italy, Fouad Omar, and a smattering of U.S. guys: Christopher Ayali, Dan Rotowski, Wesley Dong, and Michael Hamilton. The first top 8 matchup, of course, was Viet Pham versus Michael Hamilton in the Icelander mirror, and in possibly the biggest brain move ever in Flesh and Blood. This is like, if Hamilton's remembered for anything, right, it's probably going to be for catching the sink in Arsenal at the very beginning of the game, and then just shutting Pham down for the entire game. Just a mind-blowingly right galaxy brain, fire off the meme fireworks kind of move there, and Hamilton closed it out there. The next match was Dong versus Liao, Oldham versus Breyer. Breyer taking it in a very grindy game. Quick side note about that game: while that was happening, if you go over to the Team Covenant stream, Zach Bunn was recapping his experience with Wolfpack. Michael Hamilton being Team Wolfpack. While this game was going down, they had an idea that Breyer was going to win it, and obviously Hamilton's comfortable with the Oldham matchup, so Zach Bunn built the Breyer list that I guess between Christopher and Peitung, the lists weren't hugely different from one another. So Zach Bunn had Breyer built, and they played 6 to 7 matches while the other top 8 match was happening, and Hamilton fine-tuned his sideboard for Breyer as that was going down. Very important to note as we continue down. The next match in the top 8 quarterfinals, Daniel Rutkowski versus Rob Catton, a fine mirror. Rutkowski takes it over Catton in a 3-turn 5 mirror match. Rutkowski put on the Mask of the Pouncing Lynx, and there was a lot of questions about that, and then he got 7 points of damage off of it, and it made all the sense in the world afterwards. And I think you're going to see Lynx back into vogue after Worlds is over here. And to top it off, Fuad Omar versus Christopher Ali, probably the best game of the top 8. The very grindy matchup, went back and forth. Omar looked like he was going to have it there, but Ayali takes it and moves on to the semifinals there. Moving on to the semifinals, Hamilton versus Liao. Hamilton obviously wins that one in textbook Icelander fashion. Rutkowski versus Chris Ayali in possibly the most tragic match of the tournament. Ayali essentially OTKs him. A turn 0 Channel Mount Heroic turns into a turn 1 Force of Nature and a 40 damage turn that ends Daniel's evening and starts calls for Channel Mount Heroic, and that leads us to Michael Hamilton versus Christopher Ayali in the finals, and Hamilton takes it and wins world championship. And I think the debate is now over for best player in the world at the moment. I think it's safe to say that Hamilton is it.
Yeah, there's no question. The man is absolutely cracked, and also remains incredibly humble. So that's really the face you want when someone wins this much. There's zero ego about him. I really like Michael.
Given what we saw in the top 8, we just had a ban announcement released just this evening. No changes on Classic Constructed. With what Christopher Ayali was able to pull off against Rutkowski in the semifinals, there were starting to be murmurs of Channel Mount Heroic, and then a little below that in social media there was calls for Art of War to be banned. And the common thread here seems to be the force multipliers. Ethan, are you content with no ban with this most recent announcement in Classic Constructed?
Yeah, overall, I didn't really expect anything, but I thought they were going to maybe get a little bit subtle with it, either banning Cold Snap or Polar Blast, one or the other, because those cards, as we've seen, I don't really think that Polar Blast was really meant to be a bread and butter Icelander card, but as we have now seen, this ability to just trade a blue for a random card and also give a Frostbite and deal 3 damage is incredible in the Icelander deck, and they get to run 6 copies of that between Cold Snap and Polar Blast. So I thought maybe a little bit of a subtle hit on that would be quite nice. It's not what came through. Nothing came through. But as far as the force multipliers go, I think it would be a little preemptive to ban it right now, because we're about to see a deck that is introduced in Dynasty, Arachne, that is a very, I don't really know if we can call him a combo killer, but he very much impedes decks' abilities to abuse combos of cards, because he will just get rid of them either from top of deck or potentially even in arsenal with his Leave No Witnesses card. He's just going to disrupt a lot of decks that rely on getting certain cards in hand together. So I think maybe that's what they were waiting for, just see what Arachne actually does, because there really isn't a big event anyway until, I guess like the ProQuest start kicking off, and those aren't necessarily
that
that
big.
big.
You probably don't want to have a ban list happening there, though it does. We'll continue on. So on the Classic Constructed side, no changes. On the Blitz side, Oh boy, we got some changes to talk about here. Adam, I know this especially tickles the cockles of your heart here. In Blitz, the following changes are effective as of November 11, which is Friday. Ether Wildfire, banned. Ether Ice Vein is suspended until the next banned and suspended announcement, January 30th, 2023. So, Ethan, to your point, after ProQuest Season 3 concludes. Hypothermia is suspended until Icelander becomes Living Legend, and Stormstriders moves from suspended to legal. We have a Kano aficionado who should be grabbing the shovel at this point to exhume the corpse that was Kano's Blitz deck. Huh? What do you think about this, Adam?
I mean, what I found it interesting about like all the moves they've done to try to dial in Wizard. Every single move, each time something happens, it gradually changes the play style and it gradually changes the game plan. And like, of course, like when Stormstriders went, like Kano was just there just wasn't enough of a reliable, I think, win con that you can fall back on. But Wildfire and Stormstriders in Blitz was, I think, a little too pushed, because you could, like, Wildfire, you can deal easily like 20, 30 plus damage. I think I've done at one point like 50 some off of it.
You're a terrible person.
And my initial thought is that, like, I mean, so Kano loses an ability to combo that he had before with Wildfire going away, but having Stormstriders back and I think Kano kind of becomes a little more of like, we see his game plan become a little more classic to like what it was maybe during the crew era. Mind you, you don't have Stir Fork anymore and you don't have Snapback anymore. So
that's a very good point.
I think the way they've addressed it right now, it makes for, like, there still is a slight, like, you still have to work for a win with Kano. Like, you're not always going to have these easy free wins. But I'm excited, like, now that we have Stormstriders back, I'm excited to brew with Kano, and I'm excited to see, like, where the deck can land now.
Excellent. Ethan, I don't know if I've ever gotten your opinion on Blitz or have heard it. How do you feel about the 40 card format that is Blitz?
Well, I used to think Blitz was kind of a wash. Just it wasn't that exciting because I didn't ever get good quality Blitz games in, because it was just maybe play it at Armory sometimes, and most people did it so begrudgingly. But after Worlds, I actually love Blitz. I think playing against really good players in the Blitz format is the most fun I've had in Flesh and Blood. It's actually incredible. Apart from, like, you know, a high roll game out of every, I don't know how many games. I played like 15 games of Blitz over Worlds in the Battle Hardened. I had one high roll game. So, I mean, that's anecdotal, but I don't think the high rolls are as prevalent as people really say. And on top of that, what makes Blitz so interactive and engaging is just because so many things say on hit death. And when things say on hit death, you don't get to just kind of non-game your opponent and say, I don't care what you're doing because I just scale better than your hand does. And in CC, there's a lot of problems with that that come up, like you're talking about with the channel mount, force of nature, what Phi can do as well, where some hands just scale ridiculously well with how large you can keep them. And Blitz is more of a format of maybe you get to do that once, and then you need to actually worry about how to trade and how to preserve pressure while trading, which is really different. Maybe you get that in like the last dregs of a CC game, but from Blitz, it's almost how you play from like turn one. And I actually really like it. Levia thrives in that. So I'm really big convert these days, honestly.
No, I think Blitz is my favorite format. I can't get enough of it. And to your point, it's exactly because of that, like the impact of your pivot, right? Because it's impactful and it's quick, but it's important. Like you have to be able to play into that correctly. And if you don't have either the armor or the right cards in hand, it can really swing away from you. All right. We are going to get into a little more about Ethan, the man. We recently just had Brendan Patrick on, and you faced him in Pro Tour Lille, I believe.
Oh yes, I did.
And so this was just as the Goliath Gauntlet opening round match was aired, and in that, you of course took down Pablo Pintor. In what was the popular opinion was that was a huge upset. That was Pablo Pintor, greatest player next to Michael Hamilton, and then Ethan Van Sant, a respectable player in his own right, but the David and Goliath narrative was 100% there. Brendan Patrick had just the greatest words to say about you, and
that's really nice. I didn't know.
By all means, check our previous episode featuring Brendan Patrick if you haven't yet to see that. I believe that's 32. Adam, does that sound about right? Maybe 31. So. 31. I think Matt Rogers was 32. We'll get there. But he came away kind of really appreciating your ability to really dissect the game at a high level, and it was his opinion, and I think we share that opinion, is that the Pablo Pintor win was not as big of an upset as people may have liked to think, because you actually you're a really highly skilled player. During that same interview, I was referring back to your FI streams, getting ready for US Nats, where you helped me become a better FI player because of your ability to break down those lines in real time in a way that I was not there. But you got me there, and I know you got a whole bunch of other players there at the same time, and it was really informative. And it really is like a huge showcase of your abilities there. Conversely, you play Levia, and it is just a heartache of a deck. How do you reconcile playing Levia, and I know that you have the League of Levia, you love her, and part of the beauty of this game is that we can have the loyalty to the heroes that you have, but do you ever feel like you missed out on more on the competitive level because of your decision to kind of stay the course with her?
Well, this analogy came up on stream and I actually quite love it. Have you seen Little Shop of Horrors before? Either the musical or the movie? I think my relationship with Levia is quite like Seymour's with Audrey 2. It's started out like my little pet deck that I absolutely loved and cherished, and was just floored that no one else appreciated her the way I did and picked up the wins the way I did at a small scale. But as I've grown in the game, her flaws are all the more striking and all the more just kind of ignored as well by the design team. After talking with them in depth after Worlds, it really has become evident there is not much help coming Levia's way for give or take like 10 months. So, when those kind of comments hit me, on top of the true realization that, look, Levia just truly is a handicap, as good as a deck as I hope she will be one day, and as well as I can pretend her games go, the reality is you don't have enough good cards in your deck to actually play a great game of Flesh and Blood. You can play some great hands of Flesh and Blood. You can play some great turn cycles of Flesh and Blood, but to play an entire great game of Flesh and Blood is almost out of her control. You brick, you have hands that deal 6, and you wonder, why am I playing a deck with Blood Debt? Reinhardt does this. There's just so many things that can fall apart with her that sometimes don't come up and sometimes give you a great run. But when they do come up, there's just not much agency to claw your way back from a win or out of a loss. So you look at games like the Pablo Pintor game, and the reason that game looked so great was because it was over so quick. It was just like 3 amazing high roll turns, and the game just actually finally ended, thank God, because you would see Levia struggle in a longer game. It just will happen. And so to dodge that in that game was nice, but it was also a high roll game. You don't expect that to actually be how every game plays. Just like how the second game happened with Tarek Patel in the Goliath Gauntlet. Yep. Just a great start, and then an all red hand, and then a hand that only dealt 6, and then a hand with 2 non-blocks, and it's just, okay, well, there went the game. So I should move away, and with LSS, like all the conversations we had this weekend, I think there's almost some soft permission granted now to just take a break. Like she's wonderful. I think Blitz is actually in a stellar format for her, which is kind of a new discovery for me because I just never really got to play the format that well. But after this weekend, I actually love it. So I'm happy to keep, discovering what she's capable of there. But in CC, the break is warranted. It really is.
Yeah. So that's it. That's intriguing. Not that you have to pick a new favorite hero, but are you saying that you're going to be kind of just seeing what other fish are out in the sea here coming into 2023 and just see what's out there?
Yeah, I mean, nothing will ever match the play patterns of Levia. I think she's just the perfect mid-range deck, and I really love mid-range in this game. She's a deck that you almost never, ever get to draw your hand and just say, okay, I don't care what you do anymore, I'm good. And I don't like playing that way. I don't like the decks that play that way, but there's a lot of them that play that way. But Levia just literally cannot play that way. It's non-functional. You need to start interacting from turn 0. Otherwise, you have no executable game plan. Like, you need to care about your graveyard, you need to care about your small hand combos, and you need to always care about Arsenal of that deck. My God. So there's just so many decision points. You're in the hot seat turn after turn that no other deck that I've played has ever gotten close to. I mean, I literally drooled my way to a ProQuest win on Starvo, and I just can't even remember like a single play pattern I made with that deck that was anything impressive. It just was draw. It was just draw hand, okay, keep. Draw hand, okay, bad. Like, it's just that. So we need to find a deck that matches the interactiveness that I really enjoy in Levia. And so far, I think Dromai is actually the closest in that. She's got her own minigame resource system with Ash. So all my exposure with her so far in like draft and sealed has been amazing. So I think that's probably the next deck to start looking at in Flesh and Blood. And I actually think she's also another quite underrated deck. The good players get good results with her, and the not bad players, the people who don't respect the matchup don't do well in the matchup. And that's another thing that Levia could always prey on as well. So I like it. I think it's good.
I think it's funny that Dromai kind of speaks to you, because I know that Dromai also has the ability to just kind of shut down with the wrong hand. Like, there's just sometimes just Dromai cannot conduct a game action. But so before we move on to other things, so Levia's missing an element or 2 or 3, who knows, and it's definitely not coming for another 10 months. In 10 months, she's fixed. How is she fixed? What is the missing element to her to bring her into the fold?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's probably like 2 big fixes that could come through and be like pretty easy ones. But first and foremost, like, I do stand by her recursion playstyle. I think if you're just trying to play aggro brute, then Rhinar is just better at it. But you can play Levia in that way. It just kind of lacks thematics. So for me, I would like to see the recursion playstyle, the Blood Debt playstyle, be the one that's more like poignantly supported, which would make sense. Like in a Shadow Light set, I would hope the Shadow gets some help. But first and foremost, a 1-cost recursion playable non-attack would be massive for the deck. Her cost curve is like really funky because you need a huge blue base to pay for all your good hands. Like your Dread Screamer Graveling needs a blue, your Endless Maw needs a blue, your Blood Rush wants to start with a blue, on and on. Like your Double Howl wants to be paid for by double blue. The issue with that is when you have your smaller hands, you have your 2-cost attacks, which your deck has plenty of, and nothing to do with that extra resource. So one thing you can try to force right now is, okay, I'll just try to like roll scabs and see if I can get a ghostly visit swing out of that extra resource. And sure, when it hits, it's cool. But the pressure with rolling scabs in Levia is if I roll a 1 into a 1, it's game over. And on top of that, this probably means I'm out of the event, because some of these events, with how big they get, you can't make top 8 with just a random loss here or there. Like, you need to be X1 or like maybe X2 with your loss, like in the last round. So the pressure of rolling scabs is immense, whether the math says it's right or not. So just like try to risk it, like with gamblers up, safety net this, safety net that. The reality is you are always risking just to be out of the event with every scabs roll. So I hate rolling scabs with Levia. So I think a 1 resource cost recursion piece that just naturally fits into the curve that she can just get on her middling hands would be fantastic. In terms of what it could do, straight damage buff's kind of boring. So I've toyed around with some ideas on Twitter about, like light graveyard manipulation, or just something more in the shadow space that we've seen, that could be interesting. So that would be massive. Second one is just as simple as an unworldly bellow that procs on weapon, because Hexcore is unplayable, and it would be so easy to play that weapon if unworldly bellow targeted your weapon, but it doesn't. And it's actually an easy one to just pump out a fixed version of that card. Unworldly is 4-3-2. You could just make one that's 3-2-1 that does pump weapon. Easy. And then all of a sudden Hexcore is playable. And I think Hexcore is actually pretty good, but it just lacks a core around it that really makes it sing. You have to end up wasting like your other Gogan cards on your Hex turns when your Gogan cards already had the turns they wanted to play for, like with Graveling Growl. So it's a little weird. So I just would love to see a bit more support for that weapon, and also to just move away from Blood Rush high rolls, because I don't like playing that part of the deck, but it's so much damage that you have to just to carry over when your turns are bad. So I'm not asking for like a full redesign, but there's some things that could help.
Fair enough. With all this talk of exploring other heroes, I come to our first community question, brought to you by friend of the channel, Clark Jansen. He asks, what would it take for Ethan to agree to play a Bravo mirror? We all know Clark loves playing Bravo.
Well, Clark, I'll remind you of a wonderful game we played at my first ever Flesh and Blood event, where you walked in with all your Crucible gear when the rest of us didn't even know it was a set yet. And we sat down and we were, I think, the undefeateds going into the last round. And I was on Bravo. And you were on Bravo. And you had way better equipment than me. Crater Fist, everything. And we ended up going to time. And it basically instilled in me the just a complete dislike of playing mirrors. Like, I don't think it was... And nothing to do against like Bravo specifically, but that game left like such a bad taste in my mouth that I just don't like playing mirrors at all. Like, it was just such an early game to feel like, oh, gross. Like this game just ended terribly. Like, why'd we even sit down if we're both just going to double loss at a casual event? It's just kind of dumb. And I was ahead, by the way, but that's all right. So as far as like mirrors go, I don't think too many of them are that interesting, because at the end of the day, like if your deck is built to do the same thing, to execute the same game plan, then it can come down a lot to, well, who drew the deck in a better sequence to execute that game plan. Not every mirror plays that way, but that's just my inherent bias towards playing mirrors. I don't think, like, you can capitalize on someone's misplay, but it's very hard to like actually outplay someone in the mirror if you both know what you're doing. It'll just end up being the draw sequence. So I don't know, maybe that's a bad take, but that's how I see it. And I just also don't want to play the Bravo mirror against you again, Clark. So that just is what it is. I don't want to risk getting a double draw again. So that's that.
Nope, that's fair. I mentioned off air. So Clark is he's a good buddy of mine. I hang out with too many Guardian players. I don't know what it is. There's Clark and Rich Cook. Shout out to both of you. Great Bravo players. Clark has been featured on our skirmish showcase videos a few times. I wanted to get some variety on the gameplay, so I know Clark played Bravo and Blitz. So he comes in and he if you catch it, he brings a sledge of Anvilheim Bravo that is a fatigue build. And I'm on the first game, I'm on chain, and it just doesn't. That game unedited went like an hour and a half blitz. Like it was just a brutal slog fest. And he's happy as a pig in shit. Just fatiguing chain. Is how he won his pro quest, was fatiguing chain on Bravo.
Streamed on my channel, actually. You can see it.
Yes, that's right. That is an excellent segue to the next topic I want to talk about, your live streaming success. So recently you have picked up the Talishar mantle and have really garnered a large following doing that. But even before then, starting early in the year, you've live streamed, you've done armory skirmishes, ProQuest, you've gone all around, you've gotten your own. Your layout has evolved over time. You've spent a lot of time in your live stream gameplay arena, and it has evolved over time into quite a high quality production, culminating, it would seem, in this partnership with Star City Games. Talk to us a little bit about your live streaming journey here and how it plays into your plans coming into 2023.
Yeah, well, thanks for noticing all that early effort, because it really did take a while to get here. It was really just the prevalence of all these events in Michigan that were just going completely unaired. You know, they were just getting lost, all this quality gameplay out there, that just spurred this idea of, well, hold up, I've got like at least a phone. You know, how hard can it be to start putting together like somewhat of a production? And it did definitely evolve, because back in the day, you know, Flesh and Blood it had some seasons. Like that first ProQuest season was hot. There were so many views on those honestly pretty poorly produced videos that I was putting out. But that's what drove me to look at upgrades, look at, you know, improving what I could in overlay, in like quality of the stream, in like, you know, camera angles, whatever, into what it is now, which unfortunately no one's really seen like what it is now, because when I had my grand reveal ready for Lille, it never got to pop off because we had bed bugs and had to ditch the hotel. And then at our new place, I never got to set it up, and then it all got lost on the return. Anyway, so it's been a long battle with FedEx to try to, get my gear back, which is not going to happen, and now get money back so I can actually, you know, repurchase what I need. But, you know, I was supposed to stream SCGCon Dallas. That was supposed to be like the big start of this SCGCon thing, but I just didn't have anything. So now we've got finally SCGCon Philly coming around this weekend, and I've got an amazing plan in place. It's all just, you know, to my right here, all this gear I've got that is really, oh my God, like so exciting. I don't even want to play the game anymore. I just want to like travel and bring this coverage that I really hope is good for the community. Like whether or not it's going to like change the streaming game for Flesh and Blood moving forward, I don't really know. But I really just want to kind of show that it's not that hard to put together something this good as a one-man show, to travel out to an event and bring your gear and, you know, spend some time on the overlays and really bring the community coverage that is going to make people just want to play this game. Like that is all I'm trying to build up for here. So I'm very excited because once this goes well, hopefully, I'd love to open up about, hey, this is what it took. Here's how you can do it. I think that'll be a great angle to take, because I've spent a lot of time trying to find that out on my own and just run into tons of problems because people, you know, might post a video like 5 years ago about some setup they use, and then content kind of dries up. So I think I want to make sure it works, and then we're going to actually share it all with the community. This is the whole goal here. So I'm really looking forward to that. But in the Talishar aspect, I mean, that's just because I'm free and my job is kind of made up. So I've got the time, and people keep telling me that they like to listen to it at work. So, hey, like, you know, when I'm in between contract gigs, like, sure, I got the time. So I can just pop on stream and hopefully, you know, make content that's good for people. I'm glad you like that Phi series, by the way, Patrick, because I actually had someone at the Battle Hardened Columbus who was brand new to the game, like only been playing 2 weeks. He said, hey, I watched earlier 5 streams. I really like this hero. Like, I want to do well, so I'm taking it. And then he top 8'd. Like, just from being a 2-week player and watching my 5 streams. So I think that's great. Like, I'm just not hearing stories like that. Like, why would I stop? So, we'll move on. Maybe it's Throw My next, but I love the consistency of it all. It's just good content.
Hearing stories like that made me wonder why the hell I can't top 8. I've been playing for a while now. People trip and fall and win a pro quest. Never playing for the first time. I can't seem to punch through here. I want to explore your. So you have this setup coming into SCG Con Philly. It is. Give me a bit of the concept here. Are you looking to capture more of? Are you focusing on the gameplay? Are you doing any casting in the background of it, or is this more of a kind of ambient feature with concentration on an overlay? Tell me about the concept of execution here.
No, we're looking at it like full coverage, like picture Worlds, but one-man show. Although I think Alex will be joining me for commentary. But I've got a 5-camera setup at this point, with overhead, with hand cams, with face cams, with an ambient cam for the room, caster cam. I've got a kind of audio ducking system where the player cam or the players will be lapel mic'd. You'll hear it, but as soon as commentary takes over, it'll audio duck and you'll actually be able to talk over it. And so you get it kind of like both layers. So if something's super critical, casters can just like shut up for a second and just like let the players talk. But it's just the little subtle things, I think, that, took a bit of effort to figure out and work through, but to put it all together in one, it's going to be really good. And so I'm casting it, so I won't be playing. But that's another thing that I have been wanting to do more of anyway, as we'll get to the Clash thing, I think, in the next segment. Just talking about the game is something I really enjoy, coming from all the live streams with Talishar, and actually casting it as someone who was born into the TCG world with flesh and blood is going to be unique, I think, because you see all these amazing casters we've got so far. They don't come from flesh and blood. They're pre-established from somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And so maybe they've got an approach to how they view the game that is good, but it's not actually from the true like fab players perspective. I actually haven't gone back to watch Brendan's coverage, but I know Brendan's actually in a similar spot where he is just a fab player. He didn't come from something before. So I'd like to see what he did. But I would hope that can add a layer of commentary that is not just like play by play. Oh my God, there's 8 damage on the board, but way more along the lines of like, okay, this hand really below rate for like what Defy wants to do here. So we can see, like what he's blocked with, because there was the one piece, it was missing its critical component to really pop off. So now that's in arsenal. He didn't force a half-assed hand. Like, there's things like that I think I really want to see, like how that can work in commentary. Is it too overbearing? Is it easy to follow? I just know I can at least try. So we're gonna go that route.
Awesome. And you're gonna get a whack at it here with the Clash tournament that you're running now. Does it have a title, or is this simply Clash, the debut tournament?
I've been a little light on organizing this thing with everything else going on in the background, but I wanted to call it the Clash Cash Bash, but there's no cash on the line because I'm too poor. Alliteration was there at a moment for some of it, but I don't know what it's going to be in the end. I still need to iron all that out. But it'll debut like at the end of next week once people actually have Dynasty in hand and can start building decks. So probably just like Clash event, Clash tournament.
That's fair.
Vanilla.
Now you have Chris Bewley, content manager of LSS on, which is you have an LSS connection here with the format. Are they obviously they're aware of it? Have you had conversations with them about Clash as a format and gotten kind of any feedback from them?
I've heard like a couple of mixed things, namely that community-led formats have worked in the past. Like that's how Commoner became a format. But there's also the confusion element that you don't want to add into the mix, where a new player just gets a bit overwhelmed with like what players tell them versus like what they can find on the website, or like when they look for content, like where is it? And so while I don't think Clash is really, I mean, it's definitely not in a space to really be pushed at all as a real format. It's an experiment that, as far as I've heard, has actually been received very well. Players who have tried it and started deck building with it actually have mentioned like it hits all the marks that it was supposed to in terms of preserving thematics. Next level of complicated gameplay is still there compared to what Commoner is doing. Games are way more interactive than Blitz, and it's just worth exploring more, I think. So the Clash event is not officially sponsored by LSS. Chris Bewley is just a friend in this aspect. But I also have Uber Shouts, who ran the Goliath Gauntlet, who comes from Overwatch. He also will be joining in the commentary. He wanted more opportunities. So, hey, I was more happy to oblige.
All right. That's a good one. That's a get right there. So is this intended to be like a one-day thing? Is this over a course of time? Is it going to be similar to the Goliath Gauntlet, where these are taped games over time and aired in sequence to a finish? How's it going to work?
Yeah, so since this is an experiment, it's going to be a double elimination bracket, because I don't want to just invite people on board to, have kind of one unlucky game where they just don't really know what they're doing yet and just are down and out. So it's going to be a double elim 8-person bracket where we look to put out probably 2 or 3 matches a week, just depending on background wise, like who can get what recorded, and just play all the way through. I think the ETA on that was like maybe 3 weeks. 3 to 4 weeks to like really pump it out and get it done. But it would be debuted similar to the Goliath Gauntlet. It premieres for each episode, where the casting's done post-production and edited together. It won't have the same budget as Goliath Gauntlet. I got nothing here. I just got friends who are willing to help. So yeah, just it'll be webcam gameplay in some capacity with commentary. And then hopefully the other content creators have enough time to try to push some more on their edge with like deck techs and things like that, because that was the initial pitch to get anyone on board was, hey, like I'll host the gameplay, but you'll have all eyes on you to put out a deck tech and build hype on your own end. So hopefully there's a bit of collaboration there. I know a lot of people have just kind of come and gone with how busy this season has been, so that's why we were waiting for the worlds to subside and just calm down and have like no real events in the way. So I still don't even have all the details yet, because my busyness is not at rest yet. I still have SCGCon to head out for. So sorry, no more details than that.
That's all right. That's all right. There was an initial announcement of 8 players involved. Is it still those 8 players?
Yes. Yeah, it's still the 8. Unfortunately, Sloop Dupe was actually, I don't think he was in like the announcement video, but he did have to back out. Actually, I don't think he was in the announcement video, so I'm pretty sure the 8 that were there are the 8 that are there. Okay. Everyone's still set, yeah.
Now looking at the roster, it does seem like each of these participants has a hero that they are closely associated with. I imagine that was done on purpose. Coming in here, let's look at some of these names, shall we? Mm-hmm. First up, I have DM Armada, a new friend of the channel recently on. We interview all the big names here at the Combat Chain, and DM Armada was a great interview. He is a Kano aficionado when it comes to the smaller formats. Has it been decided who is going to play what? Is he in fact going to play Kano?
No one can play the same hero just for experiment's sake, and so everyone's supposed to start fighting for their lanes pretty soon. But yeah, for the most part, people are invited upon the premise that they do lean one way or another. So yeah, I assumed DM Armada would likely be like Icelander or Kano. He's a wizard player.
Excellent. Next up, we have Zach Bunn from Team Covenant, who I believe is one of the progenitors of the concept of this format. Is that correct?
Well, he was the loudest complainer. And I just said, all right, then let's do something about it. And yes, so it's been great to have them take part in this. Team Covenant is massive, but they really did want to see this project through with me. So that's been really, really cool.
Excellent. And Zach is, I know he's primarily a Runeblade player. The variant of Runeblade very depends on the time of the year, and also a very big Bravo player. So it'll be interesting to see what he brings to the table there, because Viscerai is legal in Clash. It's very, very encouraging stuff. Az from Go Again Gaming, love Az. Az is he's one of my oldest flesh and blood friends, and leader of the Azalea cult. I don't foresee him playing anything else other than Azalea, and I don't think anyone's going to stop him from doing that. But Az also, I believe, I don't know a few of these locations, but Az is from the UK, so he's got the time zone difference happening there. Have you had what kind of conversations have you had with Az about the Clash tournament?
So far he is. I mean, I love Aaron. So I've hung out with him a lot at Worlds. He's also very excited to get this going, and he's the only one who is coming from like a drastically different time zone. So might be a little tricky, but I know he's very dedicated to get this going and wants to win it all with Azalea, because some of these new Dynasty cards are pretty darn cool. So he's just I just love that. So I'm glad he's on board. Yeah,
he is. He's one of those. He started small and has really built his brand and in a large community, and really found his place. And every time he grows a little bit, I just get happy thinking about it. Next up, we have Mark Johnson, Mo Bogesley on social media, hometown TCG, big on the Buds Discord as well. He would be the other most prominent Wizard player, so I think him and Stephen Cookus are going to have to duke it out to figure out who's on Kano and who's on Icelander here. Though, of course, Mark Johnson just got second in the Battle Hardened in San Jose with Prism. So who knows?
Yeah, that was more my thought, is he will end up on Prism. But there are 2 Wizards, and actually 3. The Emperor's now out. So maybe one of them takes that.
Is the Emperor a legal? Would he be a legal hero here?
Yep,
Icelander is majestic, right? Yeah.
That's the deal. Every hero, weapon, hero spec, and mentor is allowed in any rarity.
Okay.
So yes,
excellent,
he would be legal. We do need to officially errata CNC to be his hero spec though, because otherwise he's not playable.
Yeah,
so
is that happening?
That'll make its way out there somewhere. Yeah.
Excellent. Next up, we have Elaine from the Pitch Perfect podcast. Recently came on to help me do some play-by-play for the Instant Speed tournament that came up. A wonderful individual and a passionate Briar player coming on here.
Really, Briar? I peg her for Kasai.
But you know what? In Blitz, she most likely is going to be on Kasai. Kasai is my pick for the most overpowered hero in Clash, and I do want to talk to you quickly once we get through these. I'm going to screw up his actual name, but Ethnic Smoke, help me out, Ethan. How do you say his
Pankaj.
name? There we go.
Something like that, Pankaj. I'm pretty sure.
That is good. It's your fault now if it is wrong. But Ethnic Smoke coming on. I know he's a prominent name. I have no idea what he would be playing.
I would also guess one of the Rune Blades, because there's 3, right? So they can fight amongst themselves on which one. I think he's more Viscerai oriented. Zach maybe would go Chain or Briar. So that was my thoughts.
Didn't he also I think in France play Icelander to a prominent finish?
In CC, yeah, he's been playing Icelander more recently. I don't know what he's been doing for Blitz these days, but I definitely came to know him through his Viscerai gameplay.
Gotcha.
So maybe he goes back to that, his old roots.
Excellent. And next up, we have Tommy Fresh, the Fresh and Buds podcast, the Buds Discord. We all love Tommy Fresh. There's only one hero that he'll play, and that is 100% Oldhim. He loves to play some Oldhim and Blitz. I think that's right. Is that right? Is that?
I don't think he's invited to play Oldhim. Just saying, no. He's invited to actually rep Levia, because
he is there for a reason.
Yes, that's what I needed. I needed my proxy because I won't be playing, so I needed my little Blazafet minion out there doing Bloodspot's work, and that's Tommy. He will take home the win. I'm almost sure of it.
Is Tommy essentially the lieutenant now in the League of Levia? You have there's you reigning supreme, and is Tommy kind of just is he right here?
Tommy actually has nothing to do with the League of Levia. He the core like 5 people. At first, he was not a part of. I think because at first it was like all the Levias who actually placed in something. Sorry, Tommy. But we were like
top 4 in RTN. So he's got something going for him.
Recently, right? Like the most recent season.
Yes. Yeah. No, he qualified for.
Yeah.
He got the qualification.
Because back in the day, the League of Levia, it was like we were only like 1 competitive season in or whatever it was, and there were only, I think, literally like 4 or 5 people who had done anything with Levia. And so that was the original core panel of people who wanted to kick it off.
There is an actual infrastructure of Levia players. I did not know that.
Quite the cabal, yes.
Do you have ranks? Do you have names? Do you have titles?
Of course we do. Come on, League of Levia. There's a whole ranking system. You've got like your Shadow Incarnates at the top, your Blasphemous right hand, your Levi's Legionnaires, your like Harbingers of Doomsday, your I forget what some of the other ones are, but yeah, there's a whole ranking system.
Man, I have to join the Discord. I'm not on the Discord. I gotta join now. This is just to see what's going on there. Last but not least, we have Wes from Metrics Metagame. The Metrics leads me to think that he might be on Dash. I have no idea.
Yes, Dash. That's all he plays. Which is going to be an exciting one coming in from Dynasty, because when we announced this, I don't think any Dynasty spoilers are even out yet. But they almost released a perfect set for making Clash exciting, because any rarity weapons are allowed, and there's a lot of majestic weapons in the set, and they also dumped a lot of common and rare equipment, which is all that's allowed in those slots as well. I think for them it was more for commoner support, but it works well for Clash too, so it'll be pretty exciting.
Do you know why the legendary Light Warrior action is not a Bolton specialization? Do you have any idea? Would you be willing to write that one in along with CNC for the Emperor, so that Bolton can use it in Clash?
I mean, maybe it was Clash balance. Maybe that's why it wasn't a Bolton spec.
Yeah, they were like, you know what, this is good, but Clash will have to change the ban list.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that. I think it's just like Shiana. Shiana's like the only thing that really cares outside of Bolton about the spec.
Yeah, literally. And it just references Lumina Ascension. If it just said something like grab a Light Warrior an action or something along those lines. Adam, do you know why Bolton is not, or the the Spirit of Arena is not a Bolton specialization?
Actually, now that it's mentioned, Shiana makes a lot of sense. If you gave Shiana the ability to do all that, like I don't know, that could be really strong in Shiana. That's the best I've got. Is
Shiana 1 card away from from breaking it wide open? I guess maybe she got some Living Legend points not too long ago in skirmish season, so who knows? Who knows? All right, I do want to talk a little bit about the Blitz format itself and deck construction. Have you had a chance to kind of?
I mean, Clash, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, what did I say? Did I say Blitz? I meant Clash. I want to dive a little into the deck construction of the Clash format. I went on kind of a brewing spree myself when the format was announced to see what was out there. I imagine you've had a chance to explore yourself. What do you see as kind of the hierarchy, the meta of Clash coming into here to this debut tournament?
Yeah, well, in all honesty, I don't think Fab really needs like a new pushed competitive format. They have that. So Clash is really not meant to be the let's brew and like stomp these armories with Clash. It really is. I mean, obviously it can be taken that way because it's a card game. Like, of course you can build to win. But overall, Clash is about preserving the thematics of a young hero format and also providing a entry point to new players that is not a lie, because that's what I've come up with a lot. When you introduce a new player to the game, you sell them a Blitz deck, and you basically have to pretend that that's actually a deck. And you have to say, oh, hey, let's just like play with these out-of-box blitz decks, and then you can take it to your armory and go 0-5 and never play the game again. Like, that's just it's not real to really pitch that to someone. So Clash exists for that. I mean, I live in an area that doesn't actually even have a real LGS. There's a coin store that just started hosting some Flesh and Blood events, and Clash was just a really easy pitch to say, hey, like, you want to try Dromai without spending, $300 on equipment? Then let's play a format with it. And let's play Clash with it. And it really kind of helped in my area, I think, to do that. And that's what took it to where it is now, like with an actual debut. I think there's a lot of communities where it's really the key piece in helping people get the jumping off point into the more competitive game that is Flesh and Blood. That is an amazing game. But you can't pretend that Blitz is an entry point format. It is just a lie. So I've so far even gotten tagged, like on Twitter. There's been all those brings about like Japan getting into Flesh and Blood, and there's been some big YouTubers that started posting content about it. I was tagged in some Japanese Twitter post about how good Clash was for their local armory.
Yep.
And that's incredible. Like, that is exactly what you want to hear, because I'm not saying, hey, like, let's take Clash and like make it part of Worlds. That's not the point. Clash is just a way to say, here's how you actually can get into playing the game without wasting your money on a deck you might not love, without not spending anything to play a format like Commoner that doesn't really get you sold on the actual thematic components of each hero. Like, Clash is just that in between that I think is really good, like really good. So whether it's ever official or not, like, the whole point is just, it's just not a lie when you say, hey, here's a Clash deck, let's try out these heroes. It's a format. Like, it's just how you play it. It's, you can get your whole deck for like $30. Like, it's good.
That's fair. And it is super, super exciting. I've been able to play test a few different things in there. I'm a huge Kasai fan in Blitz in general, and I think in Clash she's probably one of the strongest. The fact that Stubby Hammers exists is going to be an interesting aspect that can be explored. I look at a Force of Nature combo Briar, and I look at Phi in particular as super aggressive decks in the format. And but I think Kasai is going to be. I think Kasai is number one. So whoever brings Kasai to this thing, they're my pick to win. It's the whole thing. But that does bring us. You had mentioned Clash going into armories, and that brings us to our community question from Capolo. Dash Extraordinaire, he asks, with Clash not being an official format, it could be hard to have events at an LGS since armories are official formats only. What are the plans besides the initial tourney to spread the adoption of the format in paper?
Yeah, I mean, I think the timing of this is actually the right part of the year, because if you remember last year when the cracked baubles went out, those were just participation. It was just show up, you'll get a festival bauble. Yep. And now this is kind of the same time of the year where we're trying to push Clash a bit. We don't know if that's what the December armor kit will be like, but it's the whole idea of, hey, at least you're playing the game. Like, it's something to do. It's something to still get you brewing, something new and exciting. And if you ever spend the time brewing and building Clash, it's never wasted, because now you've got decks to pass to someone new and just say, let me sell you on the fantastic game that is Flesh and Blood. Like, I don't think it's possible to like waste your time with Clash, whether it's an official format or not, because if you've got them built, like I've got with me at all times now, I have a Dromai and a Bolton, which may not be like your first picks for Clash, but the thematics are insanely preserved in those decks, where you get to play a Lumina Ascension, Raiden Bolton deck that is not actually trash for once. Because the format is more watered down. You get a Dromai that gets her, some of her rare dragons, not her big bads with the Majestics, but, gets a huge suite of dragons to play with. It's never a waste. Like, have those with you. Introduce people to the game. Whether it's a new format or not, it's something you can play with people. And I don't really want to overstep my bounds and try to make it anything real, because I'm not a game dev. Don't know whether it's balanced, but I know that it has worked for what I wanted it to do. And, if you really want to make it work, then you can also just talk with your local player base and get them to just try it for a night. Like my old LGS out in Michigan, I think tonight was hosting. What is today? Wednesday. They were hosting Clash. They were hosting Clash as their tournament format because it's not officially allowed as an Armory kit, but not everyone goes around like fact checking all of that. All right, like you can just have fun. It's a game. Okay?
Did you play an official format tonight to get that promo? No. Rip. Yeah. Right. No promo for you. Excellent. We have one more question for you, and then we'll wrap it up. It wasn't originally in the show notes because I forgot. But I like to conclude every interview with this question, and it is actually originated by Clark Jansen. So technically, you have two questions by Clark. But I completely hijacked it for my own conclusion for interviews. So for those who don't know you, what is something you want us to know about you?
Well, you just sprung that one on me. I read over these notes. I was a little prepared.
Yep, threw it right in there. And you have been an extraordinary guest, and I do appreciate it. And this is just fun. Guests talk about video games that they might be playing, movies they've been seeing, hobbies that they like outside of Flesh and Blood, anything along those lines.
All right, here we go.
No pressure.
This one came up on stream today because someone was making fun of me for like not knowing some music reference. I don't really listen to music. I listen to musicals. I really like singing along. Hence like we had Little Shop of Horrors talk just now. I just enjoy singing along. I don't just bop my head to a beat. I want to actually get into it, picture what was happening on stage. So yeah, I listen to musicals a lot, like way more than any other type of music. And unfortunately, like musicals are not the best stream music. They're very copyrighted. I can't just have them in the background. Also very distracting.
Yep.
So, that's like for me, one of my most favorite films from this past year was probably what was this? Oh God, now I'm blanking. Andrew Garfield. What was the name of that?
Tick Tick Boom.
Tick Tick Boom. There we go.
Yes,
Tick Tick Boom.
Yeah, it was now his character is blanking on me, but it's
Jonathan Larson. He plays Jonathan Larson, the guy who wrote Rent and his whole saga.
Is like my all-time favorite musical. I am also I love listening to musicals, which I'm like this is audio only, but audience, I am like he's mentioned musicals. I am invested. Give me your top 3 listening musicals that you like to. What's on the playlist?
What's on the playlist?
I never thought I'd ask this question of somebody. This is great. I'm eating this up. Let's go.
Okay. I mean, it's a bit of a cop-out answer first and foremost, but I do really, really love Rent. It's such a banger. Like the movie as well. Like not just seeing the musical live, but like I think I saw the movie before I ever saw the musical. And it just
we're kindred spirits.
Me. It's so freaking good, and I love Rosario Dawson. Like she has actually just had like a complete resurgence as an actress, and every time I see her, I just think back to when I first saw her in Rent. So that's a pretty easy one. And then we've got, of course, anything by Lin-Manuel is really good, but I don't go the Hamilton route. I actually really like In the Heights. I was in a production of In the Heights in college.
Who were you?
Just background character. Actually, funny story on that.
Just in an ensemble. That's all right.
Yeah, I didn't know that Benny it was actually like black. I had no idea just from listening to the music. So I auditioned for him, and the director's like, "This is pretty bold of you." So I didn't get it. I probably should have tried out for like literally anything else. But I really enjoyed being in that for sure.
I definitely go to. I love Hamilton. That's like my go-to at the moment. Underrated one. If you've ever seen Spam-A-Lot,
yes.
I saw that live at the Boston Opera House, and it was just transcendent. It was fantastic. Still listen to that soundtrack to this day. It's a good one there. Oh, okay, all right. I'm gonna start a musical listening podcast, and then have you back on that one.
Sure.
But until then, Ethan Van Sant, thank you so much for coming on to the Combat Chain. This has been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you.
Oh yeah, super fun. You didn't let me say my number 3, but it's Wicked. Like Wicked has to always be in top 3.
You know what?
Easy.
I am meh on Wicked, and that is a very unpopular opinion when I say that, but it really did not do it for me. So it is what it is. We can't all be perfect. But that is going to do it for this interview. So this is your time to plug your stuff. You got a shit ton, so the floor is yours. What do you got for us?
Easy. All right. I don't know when this drops, but SCGCon coverage is coming to you live from the Sant YouTube channel. It is something I really want to take off, so please do your part in just tuning in, spreading it around. When you see the production quality of this thing, I'd love to just build that hype. Leave a comment in the chat, whatever, so that SCGCon recognizes that as well, and maybe we make this something more official, because it's not like an official partnership. I have exclusivity for this event, but that doesn't mean they just can't see what I do and then say, all right, we can do that. You're cut off. Like, I don't want that to happen. So I want them to think, I am the value add in this capacity. So anything to make that
100%.
keep going for me.
Star
would be
City,
amazing.
that would be a dick move. Just
Exactly.
saying, we're all watching. That would be a dick move.
That's right. So that's the first thing coming up on the docket. Then we've got just streams on Talishar, also on the YouTube channel. Trying to do like 3 days a week, just tone it down a little bit, just so I have more time for actual work that need to do to pay bills. That's on the Sant YouTube channel. I've got a Twitter, SantFab. That is that was actually just a great way to keep track of everything that was happening at Worlds. Twitter was just alive with all kinds of fun pictures and comments. So I've really started to warm up to that platform for the Flesh and Blood community itself.
Yes,
it's just
100%.
Fantastic out there.
Yep, it is a cult of happiness. The rest of Twitter is a nightmare, but
yep,
Fab Twitter community A++.
Agree, and I think that's really it. Those are like the main things I would care about. There's like the League of Levia Discord, which if you really care about Levia, then any YouTube description will get you there. I hope you like what I'm trying to do. And I hope that, if you really like it and want to support in any way, then, there's avenues for that, but that's never what I've been about. So, leave that up to you. If there's Patreon or donations you ever want to make, it's there, but it's never forced. There's nothing paywall. That's kind of my whole deal. So it's just been a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Excellent. And you can find the Combat Chain. We're on YouTube, and we're pushing for the 500 subscriber mark. We're at the 340 something, Adam. Yeah,
346. I was just looking at
there.
This.
It is. So we have a goal, end of year goal. We're looking for 500. We're gonna, in order to do that, we'll post actual videos. We haven't done that in a long time. We've been going ham on the podcast, but especially with the end of the competitive season here, for us, we get to kind of engage more on the video side, and you'll be seeing those. And we are pushing for 500. So if you haven't, be sure to like and subscribe and click the bell notification to know when the latest episode or video is uploaded. We are available on all audio platforms wherever you stream your podcasts. Be sure to review our podcast on iTunes and Google and leave a comment, as that helps the pod tremendously when you do so. The best way to support us is through our Patreon. You can find us at www.patreon.com/thecombatchain, and you can support us there. It is a single tier, and it helps us tremendously to keep the lights and mics up and running. And we want to shout out our patrons here. So Clark J, Eugene C, Devin, Tyquius, and Arcfire, thank you very much for your support. And of course, you can find us on Twitter. The channel's handle is @thecombatchain. You can find me at Pat Smashgood, and you can find Adam at FomTooleryTCG. Now, Mr. Sant, we have one last piece of business here, and that is the outro. So we conclude every episode by saying until next week, and in unison, I would like you to join us in saying that we are closing the Combat Chain. So I'm going to say until next week, and we're all going to say, we're closing the combat chain. Is that something I can ask of you to participate with us?
Of course, I do it all the time. It's part of the core Levia gameplay patterns. You know it.
Again, we're kindred spirits. This is the perfect place for you. Thank you very much, Ethan Vincent, for joining us. Make sure you tune into the live stream of the Battle Hardened Philly and support his work there. And I think that is going to do it for us this week. So until next week, we're closing the combat chain. Perfect.
I think that one was actually really smooth.
That was great. Yeah, that was. Yeah, I'm sure it sounded great in your ears. You were like a half second off for the first time,
Yeah.
which is great. I thought you were doing a flake for a second.